This is a recording of the unveiling of a memorial plaque at the Botany factory of Davis Gelatine by the Deputy Premier of New South Wales, the Honourable R.J. Heffron, on the 7th of September 1953. Mr. A.H. Barco opens the proceedings.
Martin, the Minister for Transport, made it necessary for us to amend our arrangements today. But as a consequence, quite a number of people who had been invited to attend were unable to do so and have sent their apologies. The Deputy Premier, Mr. Heffron, requires no introduction, I'm sure. To most of you, or all of you, he's already very well known. To many of you, as a personal and highly regarded friend. To many others, by his reputation and repute and the high regard in which I'm sure you all universally hold him. And to the members of this company, Mr. Heffron has always been a very good friend. He's been interested in the activities of this organisation and this factory in particular over many years. So without further ado, I will introduce Mr. Heffron. Just before doing so, I would like to read to you a cable which came from Nelson Dales in Warwick just a few minutes ago. Its arrival is very opportune, in which they say, Davis Gelatine, Spring Street, Botany, with all best wishes for a most successful unveiling ceremony, signed Nelsons of Warwick. I think that's very nice indeed to get that message. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Heffron.
Mr. Barco, members of the management and members of the staff of this very fine firm, I'm very pleased to be here today with you, and indeed I'm honoured by being asked to come along and unveil this tablet. The spirit behind the tablet and the spirit behind all that goes with it behind this function today does represent to, I think, all of us that hands across the sea can be a very real thing at times. In fact, if there were more of that, there'd be less fear of international wars. What prompted our brothers in England to send this over here, well, arises out of a splendid action of the employees of this firm when, following a trip to England, Mr. Barco made the suggestion of contributing to your opposite numbers in England, another firm such as this, to contributing to the employees of that firm food parcels, which were more valuable in England at that time than anything else. And it's great to know that your managerial head could come back here, make a suggestion of this kind to you, and I know people can become very enthusiastic when somebody returns and they tell you a story of just how tough the going is for people somewhere else, and in a spirit of great sympathy and enthusiasm, you can set out to do something about it. But generally the enthusiasm is short-lived, and after one or two contributions, the movement comes to an untimely end. But that was not the position here, and to your everlasting credit, this very fine work went on for a period of 3 years, in which time you have this to your eternal credit, that you sent to the old country or to your opposite numbers over there food parcels to the value of over £1,300 and food parcels in number to the extent of 2,250. Well, that's a mighty effort. and I would say for people of comparable numbers, say in an industry or in any part of our Commonwealth, I do not think that that has ever been equal. And when the people in the old country said, well, we are now managing to get along, food supplies are improving and so on, we do not wish you to continue further this very fine act, and after 3 years, well, you brought it to an end, not because you ran out of enthusiasm or interest or sympathy, but because your opposite numbers over there said, well, thank you very much, and we shall be able to get along very nicely now. Well, that was very good, and generally in this world, if somebody says to us when we've done a job and done it well, if they give us a pat on the shoulder and say, thanks very much, very good job, we do appreciate it. That's generally how it ends, and that's all that we look for. But that wasn't sufficient. That wasn't a sufficient means of expressing gratitude by the people in England. And they wanted to find some way where they could make a permanent record of their thanks for you and for those who will follow you in this industry, something that they might see, a message of thanks that they might read now, and future generations who will be here operating these works will be able to read. And so that I know the wording of that placard, although I haven't seen it, but I do know what it contains, and it is a very splendid thank you. But you didn't let it stop at that. Here, as is customary with this firm, the job had to be done properly. The memorial had to be made something really worthwhile, not only something that those who pass might read it, but associated with the memorial itself, these very fine gardens, the very fine set out, the planning of this, something that, well, you just won't find an equal of anywhere, I think. I don't know of anything better that I see. I stroll through the gardens every day after I have my lunch at the house on my way back to work, and I generally have a look at some of the fine stonework there, but I never see anything that this would suffer by comparison with. And so, to you, Mr. Cameron, for your design, for your gardening, for the splendid display of colour that we have around here, my very hearty congratulations to you, and my congratulations to your firm for making such a worthwhile contribution to what is going to be an outstanding memorial. Now, to the stonemason, to Mr. Ackland, who did this work, I was surprised to know that, of course, in the employ of the firm, that there was a stonemason capable of doing such splendid work and who was permanently in the employ of the firm. Of course, I know that he doesn't do beautification jobs like this all the time, but there it is, a trade that these days, unfortunately, is fast going away from us. We don't see the stonework today that our fathers saw when Sydney was being built, but there it is today, a splendid type of the stonemason's art. The stone, beautifully dressed and beautifully set, credit to something that, for a permanent memorial of thanks, our kindred overseas, it's also to the gardener who was responsible. Parliament now, he's been there too long, but you do know me very well, and many of you are my constituents, and I do say to you, thank you for a very fine job that you did for people in the old country. The people of England didn't reach that position of their own choice. They reached that because at a time when democracy was challenged, when all of those things which you and I, as free men and women, hold dear, when that was in jeopardy, when that was in grave danger, when just across the channel every institution of freedom that we knew and we were proud of had been ruthlessly trampled underfoot by people who didn't know just how to appreciate institutions of that kind. It was then, with people scurrying out of the fight in all directions, it was then that England stood alone in defense of all of those things that we hold dear. It was because of that England knew the Blitz. It was because of that it knew the privations. It was because of that so many of her great assets in all parts of the world, where once she was able to boast as being one of perhaps the richest empire in the world, it was in that fight and because of the part that she played in it that England found herself almost down in places but never out. It was because of that they knew the shortage of food, the shortage of money, the shortage of all of those things that would clothing and shelter. And it was the very least that we could do, or that the world could do, to help those who had fought a battle not only for England, but for free men everywhere. And so your contribution of thanks and real practical help was not only just an indication of how we felt, suffering that they were enduring, but also an indication in regard to the put up for men and women who inhabit the free world. And so, Mr. Barker, I have it's with great pleasure that I came here today to perform this unveiling ceremony. All things seem to be plotting against me to prevent my coming here. First, a special cabinet meeting came along, but as I had the job of fixing the time of the cabinet meeting, I pushed that back earlier to an earlier point in the afternoon. I could have managed that way, and then the unfortunate death of my colleague, the Minister for Transport, at the weekend, well, that put out everything for the afternoon. And thanks to you, Mr. Varco, that you were able to arrange the time that you have done. Thanks to you, it enabled me to come here and to have the honor of unveiling this plaque and saying my little bit in appreciation of those people who you felt really deserved some practical help. So as you make this contribution today to the people overseas, and as we unveil the setting up of the memorial and these memorial gardens here, we at this moment remember the part that they played in it, and remember just how much our illustration or our demonstration of hands across the sea meant to England, and as we meant to our people in England, and as we just think that thought today, we fervently hope that in the no distant future, all of those things that England and her allies fought for, those things that aimed at preserving peace, or rather winning a successful peace, and ultimately bringing about a permanent peace throughout the world, let us fervently hope that in the no distant future that will be an accomplished fact. Thank you again, Mr. Varco, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity of coming here and saying something to you on an occasion such as this. And now I have very much pleasure in unveiling the tablet. Thank you. Now, friends, I don't know whether you I don't know whether you have read this, but the tablet is this tablet is placed in the garden of the Botany Bay factory of Davis Gelatine as a token of appreciation of the generous and kindly thoughts of their staff and employees for their opposite numbers in Nelson's factory at Warwick, to whom they sent over 2,000 most welcome food parcels from 1947 to 1950, after the Second World War, and hereby they express their sincere and grateful thanks. That, friends, is the wording on the tablet. And one thing that I failed, one thought that came into my mind, and I put it one side to say it before I finished, just a thought in reference to a great man who was the founder of this company, the late Sir George Davis, one whom I was always very glad to regard as a friend and to honor as a great man, one of the big men of our time, and who launched a firm such as this. And I do recall the days in my early boyhood in Auckland in New Zealand, where the glue works at Onehunga, the part of the parent organisation of this great body, was then struggling along. I think of those men who started, George Davis and his parents. I think of their battle starting off behind scratch, not on scratch, but behind scratch, and ultimately building up a great organisation such as this, an organisation where they may claim commercially to have gone very far. And I think I am not exaggerating, and I think it would meet with general approbation here if I say an organisation where, whilst the firm goes on with its business, it also and always has had a very keen regard for the men and women who do the work in the industry. And so as I unveil this tablet today, I just, in one fleeting reference, salute the memory of a great man in our industrial life, the late Sir George Davis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Heffron. Ladies and gentlemen, I've asked Mr. Fraser, chairman of our company, to thank Mr. Heffron for coming here today to unveil this tablet on behalf of the members of the staff and all employees who contributed to this fund. Mr. Fraser.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Heffron, Mr. Barco, it's with very great pleasure that I have given the opportunity of thanking Mr. Heffron for coming along today. You all know the difficulties that he's had in connection with the loss of his colleague and also the various Middle East Premier coming home. The talk that Mr. Heffron has given you just now is really, I think, one of his outstanding efforts. He's gone through the whole of the background in connection with the inception of the idea, in the first instance from Mr. Barco, and the wonderful response that you all gave in connection with this effort of sending parcels home to Britain. And it's more than delightful to think that your opposite numbers in Warwick, England, responded by giving you a tablet, which after all is a lasting memento of the effort that you made during the very, very sad times that England was going through. It's placed in wonderful surroundings, and I'm sure that, as Mr. Heffron pointed out, Mr. Cameron and his assistants and Mr. Eklund and his assistants. No doubt they both had assistants. I don't think they could have done the job quite by themselves. But I think that when you look at the surroundings here, you must feel that this tablet is placed in a wonderful position. It's placed where you can all see it, where after all, at your lunch hour or when you're wandering home at night, the feeling of satisfaction it gives you to feel that the effort that you made during the dark years of the war, there is a tablet here in the works that really responds to the feeling that was innermost in your hearts when you sent those parcels over. In thanking Mr. Heffernan for his coming today, we know what a difficult job it's been. We know that during these past few months, the extraordinarily difficult position he's had to fill. We feel that Botany is well represented. We feel that, after all, there's no man in that cabinet could have carried the weight and burden that he's carried during the months that the Premier has been away. Carried it so well, so satisfactory. Then when his chief arrived back home, to feel that he lost one of his warmest colleagues, one of his greatest friends. It shows what a feeling he has for this industry, for botany, and you people generally here who may amongst you, may be quite a number of constituents, it shows the feeling that he has for him being able to put off those urgent other consultations that he's been going through today, to come along here, give us this very fine oration, and spend the time in unveiling this tablet. I think that you should bear in mind that Mr. Heffernan, in doing this today, has done more than a duty. It's been actually a labor of love, and I feel that really we should thank him most sincerely. And I would like you to, in thanking him, to carry those thanks with acclamation. Thank you, gentlemen, Mr. Heffernan. And I would like to say that we should give him 3 real good hearty cheers for the effort that he's made in coming here today and unveiling this tablet for you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Hooray! 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 Thank you, Mr. Fraser, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen.